This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Umbrellas up. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. Yeah, wet is the weather watchword this Wednesday. Meteorologist Kevin Williams says the rain will be relentless at times for the next few days.
The next several days will win no awards weather-wise. It's going to be unusually cloudy, damp, and chilly. This as a storm system that's brought some wild and nasty weather to the heartland comes east, and though its severe weather will miss us, its rains will not.
Okay, Kev, we'll check back with you in a few. In the meantime, let's check the day's other news on Capitol Hill. House Republicans preparing to vote today, maybe, on a nearly $4 trillion budget blueprint. The spending package includes the president's priorities for military projects, energy exploration, immigration enforcement, and tax cuts. Virginia Congressman Morgan Griffith not sure if the votes are there yet for passage.
It's kind of like a Rubik's Cube. You have to keep twisting things around, and eventually we can get there, but I'm not sure we're there yet.
House Speaker Mike Johnson.
We never promised it'd be easy, because when you're doing this much in a bill this large and complicated and comprehensive, there's a lot of opinions in the room. Nothing in Congress is ever easy, especially when you have small margins, but we are going to land this plane and deliver this.
The GOP hopes to approve the president's so-called big, beautiful bill by Memorial Day. The spending measure faces an uncertain future in the Senate. President Trump wants the U.S. to have a futuristic-looking Golden Dome defense system, and he wants it within 3 years.
Once fully constructed, the Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles, even if they are launched from other sides of the world, and even if they are launched from space.
Jackie Heinrich at Fox News.
President Trump says the Golden Dome will be finished by the end of his term, a project Ronald Reagan wanted, but the technology wasn't there. The risk already exists, including Russia. Trump says he hasn't addressed it with Putin yet. For now, the focus is getting the Golden Dome done. Trump says Canada wants in, and the $175 billion cost won't be a problem.
The president's appointed a Space Force general to lead the Golden Dome project. A fifth man who escaped from a New Orleans jail last week is now back behind bars. 5 more remain missing. Meantime, a maintenance worker at that jail is facing charges for aiding in the jailbreak. Correspondent Nate Ford.
The maintenance worker was approached by one of the inmates prior to the escape and was asked to turn the water off in the cell, where ultimately they removed a toilet and escaped through a hole in the wall.
The worker says an inmate threatened to stab him unless he cooperated. CBS's Katie White.
This was an inside job. There's no doubt about that. So far, 3 staff members here have been suspended, and we're told that more charges, criminal charges, could be coming.
It took staff at the jail 8 hours to realize the inmates were gone. Nearly a dozen tornadoes touched down in 6 states last night. Reporter Nicole Valdez is in Alabama.
The National Weather Service says they saw at least 1 tornado move through parts of the Huntsville area. Trees lying in the middle of the streets, and in some cases, homes with siding ripped off and bricks littering the lawn, all while golf ball-sized hail pelted the area.
Delaware has just legalized physician-assisted suicide. The governor signing the bill yesterday. It allows terminally ill patients with 6 months or less to live to end their own lives with the aid of a doctor. Delaware is now the 11th state to have an assisted suicide law. New York is considering similar legislation. Millions of holiday travelers will be enjoying cheaper gasoline this Memorial Day weekend. Tammy Trujillo files this report.
Gas Buddy says the national average price for a gallon of gas will be about $3.08, which would be the cheapest Memorial Day gas price since 2021. The gas price website says adjusted for inflation, it could be the lowest Memorial Day gas price since 2003. AAA says over 39 million people will travel by car over the holiday weekend. That's up 3% from last year. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Bible teacher, author, and Christian radio personality Kay Arthur has died. She started Precept Ministries with her husband more than half a century ago. Arthur authored over 100 books and Bible studies. Kay Arthur was 91. One of primetime TV's most beloved characters has also passed away.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody
George Wendt played the lovable and laughable Norm Peterson on the hit show Cheers for 11 seasons.
Good afternoon, everybody. What can I get for Mr. Peterson?
His family says Wendt died peacefully in his sleep. George Wendt was 76. Fleet Week is underway in New York City, that yearly parade of ships happening in the Hudson River as it has every year since the late 1980s. Those ships will be docked near the Intrepid Museum through Memorial Day. This year's Fleet Week is extra special. It comes as the Navy celebrates its 250th anniversary. And still to come on the Noon Report, school budget results, Hochul underwater, and Cuomo in hot water.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams, calling for a soggy saga in our area. We'll have the complete forecast for you coming up. We'll see you in about 10 minutes.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you then. In the meantime, let's check the stories that are making news where you live, all across New York and Pennsylvania. New poll today shows most New Yorkers are not happy with New York Governor Kathy Hochul. Here's Family Life's Mark Webster.
Yeah, the new CNN numbers show a majority of New Yorkers would rather see someone else as governor of the Empire State come Inauguration Day 2027. 36% said they'd vote Hochul for a second term next year, while 55% said they'd like to see someone else in the governor's mansion next time around. On the plus side for Hochul, though, her favorability rating held steady from April, and her job approval rating actually edged up slightly. Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you, Mark. That same Siena poll shows Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik is the lead GOP challenger to Governor Hochul next year. Hudson Valley Congressman Mike Lawler is second, followed by Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman, potential GOP gubernatorial challengers. Well, Governor Hochul has just announced an $1,800 baby bonus for eligible families in New York. She did so in Buffalo yesterday. Low-income families with new babies who are on public assistance can cash in on those savings.
That's why I say your family is my fight. That is the vision I've laid out for this state, a place families don't just survive, they thrive.
Hochul says the new state budget makes it so families with kids under 4 can receive a $1,000 tax credit and an additional $500 tax credit for every child up to the age of 16. Most school districts in New York approved their local spending plans Tuesday on School Budget Day. Voters also decided the makeup of their local school board. These taxpayers in Penfield tell Wham News they've never seen the line so long as they were yesterday.
This is the most we've ever had to wait, and we've lived here in Penfield since 91.
Penfield has had a pretty tumultuous few months, and I think people realize that you can't leave the future of education in other people's hands, and there's a lot of really strong opinions, so I think that's why you're seeing so many people here.
While the majority of school budgets got the green light from the voters, spending plans did fail in a handful of districts. They include Horseheads, Corning, Prattsburg, Fredonia, Gananda, Oakfield, Alabama, Caledonia, Mumford, Jordan, Elbridge, Verona, Sherrill, Cazenovia, and Cortland. Those districts must resubmit austerity measures to the taxpayers as a result of last night's vote. Well, voter turnout was low for Tuesday's primary elections in Pennsylvania. Family Life's Sarah Harnish.
There was just a trickle of people coming to the Monroe County Administration Building in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania Tuesday. They told WNEP,
"If I want things to change, I have to be part of the change."
Instead of people complaining about things around, this isn't the time and the place that you could say what you want to be done.
Voters disappointed that Moore didn't show up at the polls.
Who holds these local political positions probably has more impact on our day-to-day lives than the people at the higher levels of state and federal government, and we tend to not pay any attention to who we're putting in those offices.
Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
Thank you, Sarah. Now, despite the low turnout, the Secretary of the Commonwealth says yesterday's election was a huge success. The state's top election official Al Schmidt says more than 9,000 polling stations operated without incident in all 67 counties across the Commonwealth. FBI Director Kash Patel is investigating New York Attorney General Letitia James for her real estate transactions. The focus of the probe is mortgage fraud. James won a civil case last year against President Trump over similar accusations. The Justice Department has opened up a criminal probe into New York's former governor, Andrew Cuomo. Matt Piper has that story.
It's over his testimony to Congress during the COVID pandemic. It comes months after the DOJ dropped charges against current New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who is running against Cuomo in this year's mayoral election. Cuomo in a statement says this is lawfare and election interference, plain and simple.
Cuomo is accused of lying to Congress about pandemic decisions that he made while governor. Freed inmates from one Pennsylvania prison now have a new way to get around once their incarceration ends. Family Life's Brian Query reports from Westmoreland County.
An expanded program operated by Sage's Army, a private nonprofit focused on drug addiction and recovery, is offering free rides for released inmates in response to concerns raised by residents around the Hempfield, Pennsylvania lockup, who say inmates released from confinement in early evening hours after bus service has ended for the day regularly walk along major highways. The expanded program will include free rides for former inmates seeking medical treatment for addiction and gift cards for groceries to help those former inmates get back on their feet. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you, Brian. When college students exit campus each spring, university dumpsters are often overflowing with household items left behind. Now, rather than let those items go to waste, many schools are now working to repurpose them, including Bucknell University in Lewisburg, PA. It's allowing local charities to set up collection sites where students can donate unwanted furniture, clothing, and electronics.
Donated furniture and household goods from students that are moving out that they can't fit in their car when they're going home or don't need anymore as they graduate. We get so many microwaves and mini fridges each year from this, and then we get all the bedding, lots of good stuff that we can use for our family.
Gabby Herman with the Dig Furniture Bank tells WNEP that they're turning the student booty into a boon for needy families there in the Lewisburg area. A local food bank is also collecting non-perishable goods that are donated by the departing students. Doctors caution that endless hours kids spend glued to their phones, that's causing more nearsightedness or myopia in young children. According to the American Medical Association, every extra hour of screen time increases the risk for developing myopia by more than 20%. How about that? Experts say to protect your child's eyesight, keep screens at an arm's length away and encourage regular breaks from those digital devices. New survey shows most Americans do not like New York accents. And by New York, we're talking New York City.
60% of Americans say New Yorkers' accents are annoying. New Yorkers ask, what accent?
I don't necessarily identify it, but I hear that we do when people say like the whole quarter thing and the coffee thing.
I mean, I love it. I think we stand out. So, everywhere else we go, people are like, can you say this word again?
Meantime, 45% of New Yorkers say they think the accent is irritating as well. The same survey shows only 10% of people think folks with New York accents are trustworthy. I'm Natalie Migliori.
Okay, Natalie, thank you. Sports news next. It's the 2-minute drill on Family Life.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, what a difference a half makes. Oklahoma City trailed the Minnesota T-Wolves by 4 at halftime, and then the Thunder won by 26 points. Oklahoma City outscoring Minnesota 70-40 in the second half. They easily walk away with a 114-88 victory in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander led the way. He had a game-high 31 points. On the ice, the Florida Panthers seized a 1-0 lead over the Hurricanes after a 5-2 victory. The win in Raleigh now gives Florida home ice advantage over Carolina. 5-2 was also the score in the Yankees-Rangers baseball game. Ben Rice hit his 10th home run, and Aaron Judge hit number 16 on the season. It's probably the shortest home run of Judge's career. The ball went about 320 feet as it just curled around the right field foul pole. Hey, it counts. The Yankees have now won 4 of their last 5. In Boston, the Red Sox got home runs from Carlos Narvaez and Rafael Devers. They shut out the Mets 2-0. The Phillies took down the Rockies in Colorado 7-4. Bryson Stott, Bryce Harper, and Brandon Marsh all had 3 hits. Jesus Luzardo struck out 10 and allowed just 2 hits and 1 run over 6 innings. He picked up the win. The Pirates shut out the Reds 1-0. Bailey Falter going 7 innings to pick up the victory. And other winners on the diamond were the Rays, White Sox, Angels, Cubs, Nationals, Dodgers, Blue Jays, Brewers, Tigers, and Giants. That is a look at sports.
All right, Randy, man, thank you kindly. And still to come on the Noon Report, a midweek edition, how local stores are dealing with the Trump tariffs, record travel expected for the upcoming Memorial Day weekend, and why solitude can be a good thing. We'll talk about it on Real Answers with Chris Anderson coming up.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stone Street. Well, according to the Catholic News Agency, over 10,000 people were baptized in France on Easter. It's a 45% jump over last year, and it's especially notable given France's historically skeptical and secular society. That report's in line with others from other parts of Europe as well, where especially men seem to be returning to a faith that was, until now, largely rejected. Even in the U.S., there's a renewed interest, again, largely among young men, traditional religion. For example, Eastern Orthodoxy. Now, some are calling this a quote-unquote quiet revival without the kind of fanfare often associated with revivalism. Glenn Scrivener and Justin Brierley in the UK and Gavin Ortlund in the US have all been carefully chronicling the subtle growth. And they all seem to agree that something is happening, though it's not clear whether it's genuine revival or just part of a wider vibe shift as the cultural pendulum swings away from an overplayed woke moment. 20 years ago, there was a vibe of new atheism led by Chris Hitchens, Sam Harris, and Richard Dawkins. And at the same time, there was a new Calvinism ushered in by Tim Keller, John Piper, and the Gospel Coalition. As different as these movements were, they provided a kind of intellectual structure for a world that was unhinged by 9/11 and by the threats of global terrorism. It's not unlike what we saw with the Reagan Revolution of the 1980s, which came in the wake of the hippie age, Vietnam, Watergate, and the decadence of the Me Decade. In reaction, millions of Americans turned to faith, family, and freedom, and the newly minted religious right became quite a force to be reckoned with. Before that, it was the greatest generation after surviving the Great Depression and World War II that made its own rightward shift. Having grown up with scarcity and bloodshed, and at the beginning of the Cold War, with its nuclear potential, millions embraced the grandfatherly former General Eisenhower for president, and then turned out in droves to hear a preacher from North Carolina by the name of Billy Graham talk about saving grace. Now, there's more to all of this history than just that, but it's clear that humans have a tendency to react to social and cultural chaos by looking back at things that were lost, just as humans have a tendency to be captured by new dangerous ideas. While any rejection of the foolishness of the last decade is certainly welcome, indulging nostalgia is really no more of a strategy than claiming progress. What matters in the end is what is true. Now, clearly, many today are just simply sick of being told that they're horrible people for thinking men should stay out of women's sports and restrooms and that everything about the West is evil and oppressive. However, we have to do more than just reject bad ideas. We have to know and embrace and even love those ideas that are true and good. And then we have to build on those ideas. A new culture has to be cultivated if this so-called vibe shift we see today is to be sustained. In Matthew 13, Jesus told the parable of the sower. And some of the seed the sower sowed fell on rocky ground. With a quick flash of life, the plants then died, since they had no depth. This is a parable that tells us what is true about both people and about civilizations. The church, in this moment, has to dig deep. We have to cultivate the soil of belief. If this moment is to be more than just a flash in the pan, we have to do more than just fight what's wrong. We have to hold up and build on what's true and good and right. New conversions to Christ are always welcome, and the current surge of opportunity should drive us all to reach out even more. and to welcome more into the church. In the recent past, that's taken the form of more breadth than depth. Clearly what people want and what they need is more. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
Thanks, John. Outside, Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life weather forecast. Our call for this afternoon: cloudy, damp, chilly, rain much of the time. Watch for a thundery downpour in parts of western Pennsylvania. High temps only in the 50s and low 60s. Cloudy, damp, and chilly tonight and tomorrow with frequent rainfall. Low temps tonight, upper 40s. High temps tomorrow only in the lower mid-50s. Still cloudy, chilly Friday with showers. High temperatures Friday in the upper 40s to the middle 50s.
Hi, Kevin. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm Bob Price. Lots going on Wednesday, the 21st of May. The U.S. House could vote today on a nearly $4 trillion spending package. That budget blueprint includes President Trump's legislative priorities on everything from tax cuts to immigration enforcement to military spending. Reporter Jared Hill has more on what's in the bill.
The measure also increases spending on national security while making cuts to Medicaid, food stamps, and clean energy subsidies. House Speaker Mike Johnson is confident his caucus will pass it.
We are right on track to deliver.
The president said the bill also includes initial funding toward the construction of his $175 billion Golden Dome defense project.
The Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles even if they are launched from other sides of the world and even if they are launched from space.
Mr. Trump wants to have that Golden Dome completed by the time he leaves office. The vote on the spending package will be extremely close. House Republicans can only afford to lose 3 votes for the president's so-called big, beautiful bill to pass. Its future in the Senate far less certain. Storm cleanup efforts continue today across the South and Midwest after more tornadoes yesterday.
In Springfield, Illinois, everyone in the state's capital urged to take shelter with a confirmed tornado on the ground nearby.
Tornado warning on the top floor of the Capitol.
While in St. Louis, where 5 people died following a devastating tornado Friday, the city's mayor emotional over the scope of the disaster.
The damage is so extensive. There aren't words.
Amid the immense heartache, an army of volunteers arriving from all across the country, offering strength to communities in one of the worst storm seasons on record.
NBC's Kathy Park, AAA predicting record travel for the upcoming Memorial Day weekend at beleaguered Newark Liberty International Airport. The FAA's implemented flight restrictions because of technical glitches there. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy on when it will be business as usual again in Newark.
I can't snap my fingers. I'm hopeful that the telecom will be fixed, and if we get more controllers on board, we're back to normal.
More from reporter Emily Aketa.
United Airlines had already pulled nearly 36 daily flights in and out of Newark, one of its major hubs. But now the FAA is implementing additional restrictions across airport operations following those sweeping flight cancellations and delays. The move comes as we enter the Memorial Day weekend with the busiest travel day expected to be tomorrow. Nearly 54,000 flights across the country will be in the air as millions more hit the road.
Gas prices this Memorial Day will be about 60 cents lower than last year. In fact, the pump at the price is the lowest it's been in more than 20 years for the unofficial start to the summer driving season. 5 of the 10 inmates who broke out of a New Orleans jail last week have been captured. A jail employee has been charged with aiding in that escape. Correspondent Ryan Chandler.
6 days into this manhunt, now half of the fugitives have been captured. 5 remain on the run, and authorities are continuing their investigation into an inside job, arresting a maintenance worker at this jail who they say could have helped the inmates accomplish what could be the largest jailbreak in state history.
On Tuesday, investigators arrested a maintenance worker who they say turned off the water to help in the escape. That worker says one of the inmates threatened to stab him if he did not take part in the plot. A spokesperson for former President Biden says he only learned of his recent prostate cancer last week and last had a blood test for it 11 years ago.
They're saying that because President Biden didn't get a PSA test while he was president, there was no possible way to know prostate cancer was potentially growing or metastasizing. Many men over the age of 75 don't get that test every single year.
Nancy Cordes with CBS News. Home Depot says it does not plan to raise prices even with the new Trump tariffs on the horizon. Home Depot does admit it may run low on some supplies, however. This comes as the president pushes back on Walmart for planning to raise prices amid these tariff tensions, and Wegmans says it plans to slash prices on many of its items this coming summer. Today is National Wait Staff Day. Bree Tennis says it's all about taking care of those who take care of you.
The Bureau of Labor Statistics says there are about 2.5 million wait staff working in the U.S., and it takes skill to be good at it. Wait staff knows the ever-changing specials. They take your order and they bring you stuff. They know timing to get to you when your mouth isn't full of food, anticipate needs, and do it with a smile, all for the payoff at the end, the tip. Today, show a little extra love in that department. I'm Bree Tennis.
All right, Bree, thank you. This is the Noon Report for Wednesday on Family Life.
Looking for solitude in an ocean of chaos. That's our topic today on Real Answers, a regular Wednesday feature during the Family Life Noon Report, where we discuss the issues that matter to families with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. Welcome back, Chris.
Always a pleasure, Mark.
Always a pleasure to have you here. Now, we should probably start by defining exactly what we mean by seeking solitude. You know, is that getting away from it all? Is it isolation? What are we talking about?
Yeah, this is something that I go over with my clients almost on a regular basis. Trying to understand just how are they taking care of themselves? How are they, as you said, stepping out of the chaos of life and taking care of themselves? And that would be one instance. Or stepping out of the chaos of life in order to avoid dealing with the chaos of life. Those are completely different things. And the first one, stepping out in order to take care of yourself and to just kind of relax and kind of regroup and rethink and spend some time in quiet time with the Lord. The second one, again, is stepping out of the chaos of life in order to avoid dealing with it, which is actually isolating for various reasons. And that's not so productive. That's actually can be potentially harmful.
Right. Well, there's no shortage of scripture on the importance of solitude, and Jesus modeled it over and over as crowds were following him around all over the Middle East.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Christians, we're admonished to do that, to take time, have some personal quiet time for Bible study and prayer. I get how difficult that can be to engage in it consistently, but being able to step back, engage the Lord in some quiet time, in some prayer, and meditating on maybe just a few scripture verses. And then once a month, go walk in the woods or whatever really helps to kind of connect you in the best to the Lord. It might be just walking through your town. I know folks like our pastor, before Sunday morning service, he'll drive and pray over the community very early in the morning. So doing this, being mindful to do this, you got to see in the bigger picture that we are so bombarded with life's demands. Satan's going to use that if we're not careful and we don't counter that chaos with purposeful time of solitude. And again, a time of solitude is purposeful, it's time limited, and it's refreshing. And we need to see the difference, like we said earlier, between that and isolating. Isolation is when we're basically trying to avoid, and that's when our problems can get worse, when we're just trying to avoid dealing with stuff instead of coping with it and constructively dealing with it head on.
You're listening to Real Answers. I'm Mark Webster, along with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson, talking about the importance of seeking some solitude amidst our chaotic lives. And it's scary. Silence is scary to a lot of folks. I mean, pipe music into elevators, so people have some distraction. It's almost a foreign concept.
A big part of that is, there's so much that's vying for our attention too, and we are training ourselves to have some kind of a distraction all the time. We're not able to maintain focus while we're alone or by ourselves or sitting just quietly with, our Bible or another devotional. And so a lot of times people will even tell me, when I'm doing this, I have to have the TV on, or, I like to watch a movie while I'm doing this. The problem is this, that we divide our attention at that point, and it interferes with, I think, our ability to really hear that still small voice. The Bible's very clear that how God speaks to us, okay? And we just look at the numbers and all the, the diagnosed cases of ADHD, both in children and adults, is that we're kind of training ourselves to not have good focus, to not have that ability to kind of sit quietly and just really calm our minds and prepare ourselves basically to hear what God might be telling us through scripture reading and or prayer. Listen to the sounds of nature if you're into that, or even just sitting in your room and hearing just the fan blowing in the background, to just allow yourself to just really kind of just start, all right, God, what is it that you want to tell me, and what do I need to pay attention to today? It's just such a great habit to get into. And again, it's purposeful, it's refreshing, it's constructive. productive. But if you find yourself spending more and more time alone in a state of, let's say, internal emotional distress, you're anxious, you're depressed, you're frustrated, you're feeling guilty or ashamed about something, and then you're using that time of alone time to avoid maybe constructively solving some of these issues or addressing them, again, now you're starting to isolate. Folks with severe depression, severe anxiety, and a lot of times also with addiction might be isolating instead of taking time of purposeful solitude. If that's where you find yourself, consider talking to somebody. Talk to your pastor, talk to a trusted member of the church, a solid, healthy best friend, or go ahead and seek some professional help with a counselor. But either way, be mindful of how you're spending your alone time, and if it's really hard for you, then it's maybe time to look at how you're doing it and see to make sure you're not isolating, and then again, shift that over to a more purposeful time of taking time with the Lord, getting into scripture, praying, and then you'll see there'll be a big difference in how you cope with stress.
You've been listening to Real Answers, a Wednesday feature of the Family Life Noon Report, where we discuss the issues important to families with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. Thanks again, Chris.
Always a pleasure.
All right, guys, thank you. You can subscribe, listen to, and share this feature along with all our original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Low pressure coming eastbound from the Midwest promises rather inclement weather here over the next couple days and nights at least, with rain, rumbles of thunder, some heavy rain at times, and an unusual chill. Our call for this afternoon: cloudy, damp, chilly, rain much of the time. Watch for a thundery downpour in parts of western Pennsylvania. High temps only in the 50s and low 60s. Cloudy, damp, and chilly tonight and tomorrow with frequent rainfall. Low temps tonight, upper 40s. High temps tomorrow only in the lower mid-50s. Still cloudy, chilly Friday with showers. High temperatures Friday in the upper 40s to the middle 50s.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Finally, at noon this month, the month of May is Palindrome Month. A palindrome is when the date on the calendar is the same backward as it is forward, and using the format of month, day, year, there are 36 palindromes this century. 11 of them, nearly half, happened this month. May 2nd was the first, then again, May 20th through the 29th. They're all palindromes, folks. Check it out. See for yourself. The first palindrome of the millennium was October 2nd, 2001. The last will be September 22nd in the year 2290. So probably going to miss that one. And that's our world. The world we live in, Wednesday, May 21st. 5/21/25. Same backwards as forward. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.